Your aerospace factory is not a digital organization. It's an analog mess with technical debt and is going to kill your production rate. My name is Will Cordero. I own HillPoint Automation, and I architected the system that took a big defense contractor from a handful of spacecrafts a year to over two satellites a day. In this video, I'm breaking down the three traps that cause 90% of industrial automation failures so you can actually scale. Let's be honest where this industry is right now. I walk into facilities all the time. Companies building satellites, MGSE, defense components, and they all tell me the same thing. We're a modern digital first organization. And then I look at their floor. I see paper travelers sit tied to modules, operators writing serial numbers on Kapton tape. I see digital routings on screens that nobody reads, and then a paper procedure dangling from the HMI. I see three different Excel sheets tracking the same inventory because the ERP is impossible to use. You're an analog organization with a lot of technical debt disguised as software. And here's why this matters right now. You might be in the prototype phase. You're building serial number 1 or 2. You think chaos is normal and firefighting every day is the norm. You think we'll fix the system, when we hit rate production. I'm telling you right now, you won't. If you cannot scale your data architecture, you cannot scale your manufacturing. And in this industry, if you can't scale, you run out of cash and die. The first lie you tell yourself is, we're just R&D right now. We're only building 2 units a year. We don't need a manufacturing execution system. We can just run off Jira tickets and spreadsheets. And here's the reality. When you're building a prototype, you aren't just building the product. You're building the factory that builds the product. If you wait until you have a signed contract for 500 units, you start thinking about data structure, you're already 2 years behind. And I see this constantly. You have a brilliant mechanical engineer designing the vehicle, but your process is just tribal knowledge, and it lives in the head of the engineer and the lead tech. Let's call him Dave. Dave knows how to route a harness. Dave knows the routing is wrong and skips step 4. He knows that the torque spec is from an old revision. So what happens when you need to hire 50 more days? You end up with a shadow factory. You have the official process, right, that engineering thinks is happening, but then you have the real process that the floor is actually doing to make the parts fit. If you don't capture the real process into a flexible digital system now during the prototype phase, you're baking failure into your foundation. You're building technical debt that will cost you millions to unwind later. The second trap is specific to aerospace because you hire the smartest people in the world. You have teams of brilliant software engineers writing flight code and guidance navigation software. So naturally, leadership thinks, why should we pay for an integrator? Why should we buy software? We can just build our own MES in-house. We can build it better. You have to stop. You're a rocket company. You're a satellite company. You're not an industrial automation software company. I've seen this movie 100 times. You assign 3 internal developers to build a custom MES. Month 1 looks great. Month 6, they realize that connecting to a CNC machine is harder than they thought. Year 1, your lead developer quits. Year 2, you're left with a Frankenstein system that is completely unmaintainable. has no documentation, and creates zero value. Let's look at the gold standard, SpaceX. SpaceX is arguably the most vertically integrated manufacturer in history. They build almost everything in-house, but even SpaceX uses contractors. They understand leverage. They use external experts to build the infrastructure, the plumbing, the electrical, the automation, so the internal geniuses can focus on things that actually go to space. If you're trying to build your own ERP or your own SCADA from scratch because you have an ego about like not invented here, you're wasting capital. You need an. This is a big one. This is the hill I will die on. Somewhere along the line, we let the accountants take over manufacturing. You have a system, be it NetSuite, SAP, whatever it is, that was designed for finance. It is designed to count beans. I want to know the cost codes, inventory levels, labor hours, and because that is the system of record for the CFO, you try to force the factory floor to live inside of it. You force your operators, the people that are actually adding value, to log into a slow, clunky, gray screen to clock in and out of jobs. You force them to navigate 15 clicks to find a work instruction. Here is what actually happens. They find a way around it. Operators want to do a good job. They want to ship the product out the door. If your system gets in their way, they will ignore it. They will do the work, and then at the end of the shift, they will batch enter all the data just to make the computer happy. Do you know what that gives you? It gives you garbage data. You have no real-time visibility. You don't know where the whip actually is. You don't know the real cycle times. You only know what was typed in at 4:55 p.m. Think about your routings and repair routings. In the real world of aerospace, things don't go linearly. You fail a test, you need to rework a surface, you need to strip a coating and reapply it. If your system is rigid, if it forces you to follow a linear path because that's how the ERP works, you paralyze the floor. The operator goes off the system, fixes the part, and puts it back on the line. Now you've lost traceability. So what is the answer? The answer is architecture, specifically open architecture, centered around a unified namespace, UNS. Stop trying to buy one monolithic software that does everything. It doesn't exist. Stop trying to build everything from scratch. You don't have time. This is what we do. The single source of truth is the namespace. It's not the ERP. It's not the PLC. It's the real-time structure of your business. MES is king of the floor. You implement a lightweight, flexible MES, something like Ignition or Tulip, that is designed for humans. It gives the operator exactly what they need: the drawing, the tool list, the next step, big buttons, a fast interface, and the holy grail, back flushing. This is how you keep finance happy. The operator does the work in the MES. The MES tracks the material usage, the machine time, and the labor. Then the MES tells ERP what happened. We backflush the data. We made this part, we use 5 bolts, we spend 2 hours. The ERP just sits there and receives the report. The operator never touches the ERP. This puts control back in the hands of the people building the hardware, actually adding value. And if you design a system that helps them, that automatically calls up the right repair routing when a test fails, they will use it. And when they use it, you get real data. When you get real data, you can actually scale. So stop treating digital transformation like an IT project. It's an operations strategy. If you're trapped in that prototype limbo, or if you're fighting with a rigid ERP that your team hates, you need to stop and look at your architecture. Don't buy a solution, architect a solution.